Hey Wargamers, today I want to talk about my favorite unit in the Imperial Armour Index for Xenos, and that is the Tau Yvara. It's the best unit in my opinion for the Tau out of this index or the standard one. It's just an all-around solid unit. It's good against infantry, it's good against vehicles, it's highly maneuverable and really resistant too. It has some good toughness characteristics. So yeah, I just really think it's a great all-around player in a Tau army, and I will get into why that is in just a moment. Before I do that, though, I want to say thanks for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my upcoming unit reviews, including all the other units for Imperial Armour Index Xenos for the Tau. So, yeah, let's get to it. So, the Yvara suit feels a lot like it did in 7th edition, but I think it's actually better than it used to be. It used to be good. I think it's great now. And yeah, so it has a 5-up weapon skill, strength 6, toughness 7, 14 wounds, 8 leadership with a 2-up save, so nothing too out of the ordinary there. It has movement 18 inches, so this is a fast bugger. With a 4-up ballistic skill. That's a big change from 7th edition. 7th edition, he had a better ballistic skill than the average Tau. No longer. Now he has the standard Tau ballistic skill and 4 attacks. Not that we ever care about the attacks on a Tau unit. But yeah, so that's the basic profile. It comes stock with 2 weapons that it just always has. You can't change these. It has the ionic discharge cannon, and that's a heavy 3 12-inch range, strength 8, minus 3 AP, 1 damage shot, and if you roll a 6 to wound against vehicles, it suffers an additional mortal wound, or the target suffers an additional mortal wound. So it feels kind of like the old Haywire mechanic that I used to have. Not quite as good, but still a very good damage output against vehicles. The phased plasma flamer, say that 3 times fast, that's the other main gun that it has, and this is really where the money's at. It's a 8-inch flamer, like normal, but it's heavy 2d6, looking better, right? Strength 6, yes, even better, minus 2 AP, and then 3 damage. So it's just like, it's an awesome flamer weapon, and it automatically hits, so who cares about the ballistic skill anymore? Yeah, so they're both really strong options. Obviously, the discharge cannon is meant to be taking out vehicles, and the plasma flamer is meant to be taking out infantry, but the plasma flamer can take out vehicles just as well. That 3 damage, you only need a few of those to get through to really make a difference. And, with this type of profile, it can wreck most targets pretty easily. So overall, it's a really solid set of weapons. And then they get even better when you Nova Charge. They have the option to be Nova Charged. For the discharge cannon, that changes it from a heavy 3 to a heavy 3d3, so potentially a threefold increase in output. And additionally, it changes from strength 8 to strength 10, and from 1 damage to 3 damage. So really ramping out the output there. And then the plasma flamer becomes 3d6 instead of 2d6. So just an insane amount of output from this unit if you Nova Charge it. And yeah, I think that alone should sell you. You could probably just stop watching right now. That's it. It also has a flechette pod, which is a d6 pistol, but because it's a pistol, you can't shoot that in addition to your other weapons. And so the only time you're actually ever going to use that is if you're locked in combat for some reason. But because it has the fly keyword, you're probably just going to fly away and roast whatever's in close combat with you anyway. So you can almost completely disregard the flechette pod weapon. It's just not good. If you're using it, you probably shouldn't be. You probably should fly away and just light the thing up with your flamer. Yeah. So those are its weapons. It comes stock with a shield generator that's a 5-up natively, and that's increased to a 4-up if you're within 12 inches or in close combat. So that's pretty good. It means that you really want to be up close and personal with your with your Evara, and that's good because all the weapons require you to be up close and personal. So it really does reward you for using this guy effectively, using him aggressively. He gets better the closer you are to something, and that's different from the rest of the Tau units. That really does make it a standout unit tactically, as well as just overall putting out a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. You do have the Nova Reactor ability, which I've talked about a little bit. Basically, you have three options. You have the option to Nova charge your weapons, and yes, this applies to both weapons. I contacted Forge World. They said, yes, when you use your Nova Reactor to affect your weapons, it applies to both of your weapons. So you don't have to pick. It just does both of them, which is awesome. And this is going to be something you do almost every turn. If you're going to be within range of something, you might as well take that wound, because you're going to be doing a whole lot more damage than just that one wound. So I think typically it's worth it to Nova Charge just for the offensive ability. But there are two other abilities that you may consider using in certain circumstances. The first is an escape thrust. And the way it's worded in the index suggests that you can escape during your opponent's turn or some other atypical timing, but that's inaccurate based on the latest FAQ. They did clarify that the way that this works is that you will use this ability, and then at the start of your next movement phase, you leave. So basically, you use this if you're stuck way on the other side of the board and you need to get home, you need to get somewhere else in a hurry, and you can't walk there for some reason. So you might want to use that. Typically, that's not going to be the case. Typically, you're going to end up just using that 18-inch movement to get somewhere good. But, you know, if you're down to 3 wounds, you only have 6 movements, so maybe you do need to use that to get out of dodge. The third option you have is Nova Barricade, and this increases your invulnerable save to 3 up against close combat. This is a good option if you are jumping out into an area and you're not in range to hit anything offensively, but you know you're going to get hit back real hard. So one of the weaknesses for the Evara is that it has only 14 wounds. And now that everything can hurt everything else, it can get swarmed down pretty easily. So having that higher, or that better invulnerable save against close combat attacks can be really useful. So typically, you know, if you're going against something that only has -1 AP or no AP at all, you're still going to be using that 2-up armor save. So don't worry about this. Use your Nova Charge on your weapons, because that lasts until your next turn. So that means you get offensively your Flamer boost, but you also get that Flamer boost on Overwatch, which is money. You can roast entire units in your Overwatch just using your Flamer. So in a lot of cases, you're just going to be sitting there like, yeah, come at me. I don't care. I'm just going to have a barbecue when you show up. There are some notable exceptions to that, of course, but in a lot of general circumstances, you're just going to roast them. So again, if you're facing an assault army that doesn't have good AP, a lot of times it's just going to be better to focus on the weapon option for your Nova Reactor. But if you are going against something that has pretty good AP, that 3-up invulnerable save is going to be really nice. So yeah, guys, it's like I'm getting flamered in here too. I'm either that excited or it's just that summer heat. But whew, man. All right, so that's the basis of the Evara. He does have a couple options. He can take 2 support systems, but you really don't have a choice on which ones you're going to use. You're almost always going to take the stim injectors, because with 14 wounds, every single one of those wounds is precious. You need to save it, so stimulant injector is really going to be your friend there. And because both of those weapons are heavy weapons, you need a target lock. You need to be able to move and shoot those weapons at full effectiveness. So the target lock is going to be your friend as well. You can go with an advanced targeting system just to give that little extra bit of AP, but you know, you're already doing pretty well on that front. I don't know what to tell you. You're already doing pretty good, so you don't really need that. And then you could also go with a velocity tracker just to really pound those flyers. But again, the Flamer, if for one thing, you just have to get in range with the flyer, which is going to be a challenge. in some cases. If you have that 18-inch movement, you probably can do it, but still getting close to a flyer can be difficult. But that flamer is going to do a lot of damage to a lot of different flyers. So, and that hits automatically, so you don't necessarily need the velocity tracker. I would bank more on taking the target lock and the stim injector than hoping that I'm going to face a flyer and hoping that I can get in range and everything like that for the velocity tracker. So yeah, really stick with stims and target lock. You also have the option to bring drones, but drones here have a couple weaknesses. You have the option of taking a shielded missile drone, which has movement 12, or a standard shield drone, which has movement 8. Both of those are going to have a slightly difficult time keeping up with the Yvara. He's going to want to be moving. That's really his strength, is movement, in combination with his awesome firepower. But you need to be up close and personal. That means that you're going to be using that movement to its fullest, and you can't be slowed down waiting for drones. So while the shielded missile drone has enough movement that if you have him start out like toe-to-toe with the Yvara, and the Yvara moves 18 and the drone moves 12, he'll still be within 3 for the Yvara. But the shield drone, the standard shield drone, doesn't do that. Even if you advance, you're going to be a little bit short in most cases. And yeah, so you can't wait around for drones. And in addition, you're only taking 2 of them, which are easy targets for kill points and can easily be just taken out by part of a unit that you're looking to roast with your Yvara anyway. So instead of taking drones as upgrades here, I would just suggest taking a unit of gun drones and having them advance alongside the Yvara and try to get them as close as you can, because they're going to have some better tactical options. They're going to have actually some fire output, and they're still going to be able to do these savior protocols. Granted, you don't get the benefit of the shield generator on them, but I would probably just go with gun drones. You could throw some shield drones into that gun drone unit if you take them as a fast attack choice, and use them both ways. But either way, just have a unit of drones that tries to make it alongside the Yvara. Don't take the upgrade. It's not going to work out. Yeah. So that's really all the options you have. It's a pretty prescribed unit, but it's really aggressive, and it will carry a lot for you. When you deploy it, there's 2 things. One is you want to take more than one of these guys, because they are going to be heavy targets, and like I said, they can be swarmed down easily. So you need to take a couple of them to really make sure the job is done. They also synergize off each other due to supporting fire or for the greater good now. Having 2 of them is a lot scarier to charge than 1 of them. So I would always recommend taking 2. If you only take 1, it's still going to do a lot of work for you. It's still going to be good, but 2 is more than better. So, so yeah, there's that. You don't have a deep strike option with these guys, so you have to deploy them aggressively. They have to be up front, and if you're going second, you really want them to be behind line of sight blocking terrain, and you want to use your other units to prevent a really advantageous deep strike. If you deploy your Yvara straight up on the front of your lines, you're going to have an open, like 180-degree arc for deep strikers, and that's where your stealth team comes in as well. You can use those guys to prevent a deep strike right on top of the Yvara. Those stealth suits are going to be able to not only help block for your Yvaras, but also give homing beacons for crisis commanders or crisis suits, whatever you want. They are going to be a really important component of using Yvara effectively. That plus their ability to infiltrate is going to mesh well with the advanced or the aggressive movement of the Yvara itself. So to recap, the Yvara is a critical component to the Tau army list starting out in 8th edition. At least now, at least before the Codex comes out, before we have a ton more codices from other armies, the Yvara is a really important part of the game plan. And who knows, maybe it's going to get FAQ'd or errata to not be as effective, but right now it's really awesome. I'd recommend bringing at least 2. If you bring 3 or more, you're probably going to get some looks, but depending on the environment that you're in, that might be totally appropriate. When you bring them, you can basically disregard the flechette pod. Don't bring drones. If you bring drones, bring a unit of fast attack drones and just have them kind of hang alongside. For support systems, you can take stim injectors and target locks, because you need the target lock for the discharge cannon, and the stims are going to be your friend for making every wound count on that guy. And finally, just deploy them aggressively and keep your army list focused on being able to give them some support. They're going to do their own thing, but at least in the beginning, they're going to need a little bit of help, not just to get alpha striked right off the board. So that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and of course, happy wargaming.